When playing the finals, you will see strategy. It's present everywhere. How to guarantee your victory, your success, it's by having a good strategy and keeping up with the meta. However, the finals has not changed its meta for a long time. Metas define your playstyle and actions, as the only way to really compete at a high level in any game is to use the most effective tactics available. However, this beats down on the rest of the content in the finals. It makes no sense to use an off-meta pick, because it would not only be harder to use, but also less rewarding. The finals is a sandbox in an FPS game. Why would it want to shrink its creative potential by forcing players to follow the same boring strategies so they can potentially win? When it comes to the finals, there are fixes that could, should, and would have been in place by now if they took the risk of changing the game. Obviously, that's a pretty big risk. However, considering that over the past year and leading up to the Grand Majors, we didn't ever see a big shift in players' loadouts, and even in the team strategies, there is never a serious balancing update that shifted the current meta. Even when we were promised that Season 9 would shake up the game, all we got was an okay map, that being Feng Wai, and no new weapons. Obviously, adding 10 damage to the RPG is not going to change how people use it. In this video, I'll talk about what the newest meta could be, and how I would fix the current meta. But before we can fix the current meta, we need to know what it is. The finals has 3 classes, each of them with their own unique kits. However, as it currently stands, they have been using the same loadouts for their class for the past few seasons. Let's begin with the biggest of the 3 kits. Heavy, the big dog of the pack. The Heavy kit contains a lot of support and tools to control points, but also for stopping pushes. The Heavy has bigger, more powerful guns, 2 of these being the Shack 50 and the SA-12, which pair very well with the Heavy specializations and gadgets. The Heavy loadout can have lots of synergy. For instance, Winch Claw works very well with the Shack and SA-12, as they hold high damage in close range. Additionally, the Shield Bubble adds extra protection and allows you to get kills under said protection. However, on a related note, the Heavy got the big revolver, which has only made everything worse. But I mean, did Season 8 even make anything better? The revolver on Heavy plays almost like a pike on medium. It is used for poke fights only. Considering the Heavy has a healing ball, he could theoretically just camp on a roof for ages, poking out players with his pike deagle, slowing the pace of the game. Now, poke can only be done with heals. There is someone here for that. Now, the Heavies need their support, and who does it best? The medium. Medium has a support kit. Defibs and heal beam are prioritized, and almost always jump out at goo. Funny enough, mediums would actually be using dematerializer if it didn't got nerfed into the absolute ground, requiring mediums to only be able to play support now. The medium is trying to work with the light to guarantee Heavy into the fight, as once Heavy is dropped into the middle of a fight, that's where he works best. And behind the Heavy, we have the medium and light both working to heal him. Yet the difference is that Heavies no longer need to play as close-range bulls. They can simply play the longer route, hitting snipes from 200 meters away, with the added bonus of getting healed by 3 different sources. Most fights in the finals feel genuinely horrible, as it boils down to peek, shoot, take cover, peek, shoot, in an infinite loop. This just ruins the game for everybody, as it's not fun to be healing a fat-ass Heavy who needs constant support just to miss 3 out of the 5 revolver shots. But I try my best not to miss, so please subscribe. The medium, like I've said before, will have to solely play heals, and not ever stray from that position, or that will cook the team. Now the light, the smallest class, has always been known for being a glass cannon, and I think that's true. Considering the synergy between mediums and heavies, the light rarely interacts, usually just to H+ infuser the heavy or medium. Now the light in fact shouldn't be sticking around the team, as that's a quick way to die. Instead, the light will use the method of playing off the team while not directly hugging them. Basically, just taking kills, gatewaying their team, and chasing down last members of an opposing team to team wipe. Lights have been treated with the utmost hate from Embark. For the past seasons, they nerf the taser, they make the invis option inviable, and lastly, they disabled the light's greatest crutch utility, the thermal vision. Now, you understand that we have been stuck in the healing poke meta. But who represents the strategies at play, and why are we even in this health hell? we would need to look at the pros. The bench warmers, sports ball, amazing players, known as the professionals. The professional finals players. Why do people hate professionals at games? Is it because they are losers? Maybe. Is it because they just play a game for a living? Not really. No, the deepest pit of hate is for the pro scene. When anything gets too fun, they call for an immediate nerf. The finals pros opt to play as fucking turtles, hiding in their shells, scared of any risk. Problem is, risk will catch up to them. The strategies of being hyper-defensive on points have not changed. Players jump around trying to defend a point before playing aggressive or vice versa. Playing aggressive, then defensively. Strategically wise, the EU and NA servers have been the same for 2 fucking years. They always opt to stick together. The only deviations are ever seen in the Asia regions. What I would do to fix the meta. The fact that there is even a meta at all is obviously an issue, as the finals is a game that's meant to be played with creativity, so the question has to be asked, whatever can the finals do to get rid of the current stupid meta, and somehow balance the universe of content in this game? This is obviously not easy. I'm certain that they can do a lot more than reducing the healing of the H+ infuser from 15 to 14 health per shot. This isn't to say that patches like these are totally unnecessary, but obviously the finals would either need to do hundreds more of these micro-balancing patches, or they need to totally flip the game on its head and completely nuke the weapons, a blank slate for all guns. However, neither of these are close to good ideas. Changing the whole game is definitely not pro-friendly and would definitely anger people who have grown attached to their strategies, and doing these small patches is bound not to change the game enough to weed out the meta style of playing. I do, however, think they are better ideas than letting the game stagnate with old balancing and items like they have done for the most part in the 9th season. One thing I will say, if they take ages and ages to fix things like thermal vision, which has essentially been taken out for 2 entire seasons, the game will die a painful death. In terms of balancing, which seems to be in the path the finals is taking and is a much safer method for retaining players, they have to spend much of their time balancing the meta picks, and it makes sense that they focus on the meta picks because those are the only ones people are looking at, but they really have to focus on the game as a whole. For example, if they nerf the goo grenade by making the goo smaller or weaker, it will make less of a need for destruction because people will have a harder time blocking up paths without it. Less need for destruction would make the pick rate for destructive gadgets lower, which then goes on in a big chain reaction, resulting in heavy becoming more popular for its other defensive gadgets, or some big meta shift like that. The finals needs to plan out what they want their game to be, and then change every single gadget and specialization to fit that architecture. This could involve these small balancing changes that they have been doing, but I personally would favor a more destructive approach and rework the problem gadgets. This would again anger most likely the pros that love those gadgets, but in the grand final scheme, there needs to be some form of reworks to the current metas. In conclusion, the finals team is not making enough changes to their game, and the changes they do make are not coordinated enough. In the 9/11 hotfix, they removed a newly implemented changed barricade for the heavy. In update 9.4, they fixed an issue with the breach drill, and this goes on. My point is, although they have no big shortage of balancing changes for their weapons, and they did add a pretty acceptable new map, they have not affected the meta whatsoever. This could be because they have not identified that it is not good for the finals to have a meta, or that they think they can resolve it by balancing the weapons. But it is clear to me that they need to do more. The changes this season have been so far so sparse that I'm kinda just hoping they saved all the good changes for later. In the end, the finals development seems to be pressured too much by the pro player base. If I could leave you with a message, it's to try playing off meta. You can show the finals that there are guns out there that even they have forgotten about, which should still receive developmental attention. At the end of the day, I think the finals is relatively healthy and can keep growing. If you stayed until the end, I thank you. Please like and subscribe, as I'm trying to hit 10K by the end of the year. And as always, see you in the next one.